I never thought a marriage could unravel through a single sentence. But sometimes clarity arrives without drama. My wife's text came at 7:18 p.m., right as I was tightening my tie for the company gala. "I'm staying at David's tonight. Don't wait up." No explanation. No apology. Just punctuation doing all the work. I stared at the phone longer than I should have. Not angry, not shocked, just oddly calm, like my body already knew something my mind was catching up to. I'm Rowan Hale, 44, operations director at a logistics firm in Chicago. 12 years married to Eliza. No kids. Plenty of history. I slipped my phone into my pocket, finished the knot, and left the apartment without responding. The gala was hosted by our parent company's CEO, a black tie affair at a downtown hotel with mirrored walls and a view of the river. It wasn't a party you skipped without consequences. I arrived early, shook hands, smiled when expected. Eliza loved these events once. She used to plan outfits weeks ahead, tease me about my stiff collar, lean into my arm as if the room was ours. Somewhere along the way, that warmth cooled. Dinners became logistical. Touch became accidental. We shared calendars better than feelings. I told myself it was seasons, pressure, age. I kept showing up. David was a colleague of hers, a consultant with an easy laugh and a habit of overstaying. I never accused. I never snooped. I believed in trust because the alternative felt like erosion. Still, the text sat in my chest like a small, undeniable truth. Staying at David's. Not late. Not working. Staying. I didn't reply because there was nothing left to negotiate. She made a choice and named it plainly. I respected the clarity. At the party, conversation flowed like practice choreography. Investors asked about forecasts. Board members congratulated our growth. I nodded, answered, listened. Then the CEO took the stage for brief remarks, thanked partners, invited a toast. Glasses lifted. Applause settled. I felt the familiar pressure to perform normalcy, to keep the mask tight. Instead, I felt a clean line draw itself inside me. This wasn't about humiliation or revenge. It was about alignment. Words and actions finally matching. When the CEO stepped down, I was introduced to a group I hadn't met before, donors from London. They asked about leadership culture. Without planning it, I answered honestly. I spoke about boundaries, accountability, and how clarity prevents waste. I said ambiguity costs more than truth. Heads nodded. Someone laughed softly and said that was refreshing. It felt good to speak without editing for comfort. My phone buzzed once. A follow-up from Eliza never came. "No, we need to talk." "No, I'll explain." Silence can be louder than shouting. I ordered water and stepped onto the balcony for air. The river reflected lights like a scattered map. I thought about the nights I cooked while she scrolled, the trips I planned that ended early, the conversations that stopped halfway. I hadn't lost my temper. I hadn't begged. I just kept investing in something that stopped compounding. Back inside, I found the CEO again. He asked how I was enjoying the evening. I told him it was clarifying. He smiled, the way people do when they sense a turning point but don't pry. He asked if I considered taking on a broader role next quarter. I said I was open to discussing it. Opportunity doesn't announce itself. It waits for space. Tonight, space had opened. I finally texted back. One line. Understood. Not a threat. Not a plea. Just acceptance of the terms she set. Immediately, I logged into our shared account and separated utilities into my name. I didn't cancel anything impulsively. I documented. I preserved stability. Respect doesn't mean self-abandonment. It means responding proportionally. When the party wound down, I shook hands and thanked hosts. Outside, the night was cool and steady. I walked instead of calling a car. Each block felt lighter. At home, I packed a small bag, not to flee but to breathe. I left a note on the counter. "We'll handle this through counsel. Take care." It wasn't punishment. It was procedure. At a friend's place, I slept deeply for the first time in months. Morning brought messages from unknown numbers. I didn't answer. I scheduled a consultation, brewed coffee, and watched the city wake. The narrative would form without me. It always does. But my part was done. I hadn't ended anything at a party. She had ended it with a sentence. The difference was that I finally believed her. By noon, clarity had turned into resolve. I returned to the apartment to collect files, not memories. The walls were quiet. Her shoes were gone. So was the noise. I felt no triumph, only relief. Dignity isn't loud. It's consistent. When someone tells you where they are staying, listen. When they tell you who they chose, accept it. And when the door closes without a slam, walk forward anyway, because peace is not a consolation prize. It is the point. Later that afternoon, a quiet certainty settled in. I wasn't rewriting the past or demonizing anyone. I was choosing coherence. Friends would ask questions, opinions would harden, advice would arrive uninvited. I would answer selectively, briefly, without spectacle. There is power in refusing to audition your pain. The next weeks would involve paperwork, measured conversations, and nights that felt longer than they should. I would handle them the same way I handled that evening. Steady, factual, unwilling to bargain with denial. Growth rarely announces itself with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives as an unclenched jaw, a slower heartbeat, and the ability to sit alone without reaching for distraction. I knew grief would come in waves, but it wouldn't drown me. I had learned something permanent. When respect leaves, love follows. And when clarity appears, even late, you honor it by moving forward without apology. That lesson would guide every decision I made next.